Good morning. Today is obviously an important day. It's hard for me to believe that tomorrow will be 10 years since I've been sworn in as mayor of the city of Tuscaloosa. And thinking back about what the last 10 years have brought for our city, I can't help but get nostalgic about it and be very proud of what we've been able to do. It's been a culmination of an unbelievable city council. I have been blessed with council members who have been dedicated to our city, who care about our city, and who many times have sacrificed projects in their district to help another district when it was in need. And West Tuscaloosa certainly comes to mind, as we've been able to get such buy-in on so many infrastructure projects in that area, and also the tornado. We've also been blessed by the tremendous growth of the University of Alabama, and certainly having a senator from our hometown has not hurt either. The culmination, I think, of all those factors has created an amazing 10-year period in the city's history. But the best decision that I've made in 10 years was marrying Stephanie Roberts. So Stephanie joined me today. I'm really glad you came. It means a lot to me because oftentimes you get to see me and I get the honor and recognition, but there's so many sacrifices made by our family, and Stephanie bears the brunt of those sacrifices. So thank you for all you do for me and for our children and for our city. So let's talk about the last 10 years. I'm as excited as I can be about what we've been able to accomplish. And certainly we want to take a few minutes and brag about what we've been able to do. But here was the landscape in 2005 when we took office on October 3rd. Our population was 83,463, and today it's 96,122. We were in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. In fact, some of the first decisions I had to make as mayor, I remember, was dealing with hotel rooms that that Katrina survivors were in, and Alabama fans wanted to backfill in those hotel rooms. So I remember that being one of the first big problems that I had to deal with. YouTube was founded that year, and ProThrow made the catch. So that puts it in context of where we were in 2005. Next, I'd like to show a 2-minute video that gives you kind of what I think is a pretty good synopsis of some of the major capital projects that we've been able to do that I believe that have helped advance our city. I would put our 10 years up against any city in the United States. And our 10 years have been in the shadow of one of the worst economic recessions in American history, and in the shadows of one of the worst natural disasters in American history. And yet we have never laid that as an excuse for abandoning progress. And it makes me so proud to work for the city, to have such a dedicated staff, to have an amazing city council, and such a city that embraces progress. And when you look at the timeline since 2005, you begin to see that we have never been static. We've never taken the approach that it's either less government or big government. It's about effective government. It's about government that's willing to be bold and dynamic and to continue initiatives that are both financially responsible and can make a true difference to the quality of life of our community. One of the first things that we did was initiate the Tuscaloosa PreK Initiative. This initiative has added more than a dozen pre-K classrooms across the city of Tuscaloosa. Today we see a lot of people talking about pre-K, but we were the ones actually doing it before it became a very positive political tagline. Our PreK initiative has been one of the most successful in the nation. More than 80% of the academically at-risk children that come through our pre-K program are reading on grade level by the time they finish third grade. In other words, when they reach third grade, they're reading to learn instead of learning to read. We know that if you're not reading on grade level by the time you're in fourth grade, 80% of those students will not graduate high school. So think about this. If you don't get it before you're 10 years old, you're almost against the wall. And when you look at 2/3 of every jobs that will be created over the next 25 years will require either a 2-year or 4-year degree, we've got to have our children ready. The PreK initiative has been a huge step in that direction for our community. The other great part about our PreK initiative is we've raised over $170,000 in private funds, plus many businesses. The United Way, Mr. Jimmy Harrison, have given tens of thousands of dollars to supplement what the city has provided in funding, the money that we've provided for the Mayor's Cup. But I want to do more in the next 10 years. And my goal is that every academically at-risk child has that true opportunity to meet and achieve the American dream. Certainly, one of the things that I'm most proud of has been our initiatives in West Tuscaloosa. When we took office on October 3rd, 2005, there had been decades of neglect of West Tuscaloosa. And that neglect was mostly seen in its infrastructure. And we made a commitment on day one that we were going to do with everything within our power to reverse that trend for the people of West Tuscaloosa. It began with a couple of simple initiatives: cleaning up the West Highland Cemetery, removing the Culver Road junkyard. Today, some people have already forgotten those even existed, but at the time they were huge eyesores for the people of West Tuscaloosa. But the most significant contribution that we've made over the past 10 years has been the Noah's Ark Storm Drainage Initiative. This $27 million project, with 2/3 of those dollars going directly into West Tuscaloosa, has alleviated flooding in many areas of Tuscaloosa, like Taylor Circle, Royal Pines, Oakdale. This initiative gives us the opportunity in future years to bring back commercial and retail development. Public safety has been another core focus of what we do. One of the best decisions that I've made in 10 years is hiring Police Chief Steve Anderson. And when we hired Steve talked about decentralizing our police department. He felt it very important that we put our police out in the communities where they would be patrolling. And this is well before the time of Ferguson and Staten Island and Baltimore. Chief was on the forefront of this, and we have done everything we can at the city to support his vision. And since that time, we have now police precincts in Alberta, in West Tuscaloosa, and downtown. Where we've placed these precincts, we have seen reductions in crime, we have seen stronger community bonds, and we're going to continue to support this initiative in the years to come. In terms of fire and safety improvements, you've seen the new stations that have come online. We've initiated programs such as going into the communities and helping especially our seniors be able to have their fire alarms tested, and if there's something wrong, for us to go in and correct that. And we continue to establish education and partnerships, most notably the HOPE Initiative. Back in 2009, we invited the churches in Tuscaloosa to come together and help us deal with the issues of crime, poverty, and blight. If you think about it, there's only one institution that's on the corner of every community in Tuscaloosa, and that's a church. And we ask the churches to partner with us to go into many areas of our city and reestablish hope. And I'm proud to tell you that this initiative continues to bear fruit. In fact, today we're going to go volunteer in the community to go make a difference. And there are dozens of service projects that are going on this weekend to help bring hope to many communities that need it. We hope to expand and enhance these types of programs in the years to come. In fact, my goal in late November or early December is to announce a new initiative that our staff is currently putting together, where we're going to take these efforts and put them on steroids. Still today, we have too many people in our community that are facing a true opportunity gap. And we need to do everything we can to empower communities, enhance communities, because where people have hope, we can be transformative, we being our entire community. And we're certainly going to continue to work to that end. Another key focus of our administration has been to open the doors of City Hall. I will say that when we took office in 2005, there was a lot of cynicism about the city. People wonder whether, who their government was really working for. I have always believed and have always held true that I work for the people of Tuscaloosa. They have been kind enough to give me 3 4-year contracts. And I know every year or every 4 years I have to go earn another opportunity to serve. So I felt it was very important that the stakeholders that I work for every single day, that they have access to their government. The first initiative that we launched was Tuscaloosa 311. When we began exploring 311, there were less than a dozen communities across the United States that had it. Many people didn't think it was possible. Well, today 311 gets thousands of phone calls a year, nearly 100,000 a year. From that, we issue about 25,000 work orders that go out through the community. Those work orders are data tracked so that we can measure the performance of how we're responding to the concerns of our citizens. And in fact, we will even call you back to make sure that we solved your problem. Some of the most enjoyable moments of being mayor is when somebody emails me and says, I can't believe that 311 called me back to make sure that my garbage cart was fixed. They never anticipated getting that type of service. I've always felt that we have to be open in what we do and be the gold standard of our services at the city. And 311 certainly has done that. We've put our public meetings online, and we've done everything that we know to encourage public involvement, from community conversations to town hall meetings. We want to be as open and accessible to the people who pay our salaries, and we're going to continue to do that. Another area that I think is of great strength to the city, and one of those quiet areas that doesn't get much recognition, but I think speaks volumes about our ability to effectively manage your government, and that's the financial stability of the city of Tuscaloosa. Think about this. We go through the Great Recession. We go through a tornado that requires us to cash flow over $44 million. And we go from a AA rating to a AA plus in terms of our bond rating from S&P. There are not many communities that could weather that kind of storm. In fact, one of the most memorable parts of going through the tornado was 5 days after the tornado, we had to have a conference call with Moody's and S&P and validate that we had the financial wherewithal to pay our debt. So admits, when we were in the midst of still in search and rescue, of still pulling people out of the rubble, we had to prep for a meeting, a conference call from New York to show Moody's and S&P that we could survive financially the storm. And we did. And we did it without raising taxes, and we did it without borrowing money. There's not many communities in the United States that could do that. In fact, the 87.5% of the city that was not touched or damaged by the tornado continued to receive their services. A lot of that gets lost, but that is strength. That is a strong city that has positioned itself well throughout the years. It was difficult some weeks making payroll when you're cash flowing that much. when $100,000 a day for 3 weeks was going to PD, and $75,000 a day to fire, and $50,000 a day to TDOT, that you're cash flowing every single day. But we did it, and it's one of those proud achievements that sometimes gets lost. It's not very sexy, yet it speaks to the strength and vitality of our city. And then when you layer on top of it, we have the lowest city sales tax of any municipality of any size. Our city has 2% of sales tax. Now, many of you see 9% as the county total, of which but we only receive 2% of that. To give you some comparison, Mobile gets 5%, Auburn gets 4%, Montgomery gets 3.5%, Huntsville gets 4.5%, Hoover gets 3%. And I could go on and on and on the list of cities. So we have a lower tax base, have met all these challenges, and never come back to you for a tax increase. Again, that speaks to the strength and vitality of the city's finances. And so how have we been able to do that? Through economic development. We have felt for a long time that this city, when we came into office, was not tapping its potential. You know, I felt like Tuscaloosa was this sleepy town that was yearning to be something greater. We just had to tap into that energy and passion that existed. And a lot of that has come through our economic development. Number one, we have gone out and looked at where we had retail gaps. Where were people spending their money? Well, conservatively, $250 million a year. Taking even a more liberal approach, up to $400 million a year was being spent outside of Tuscaloosa County. So let's say it's $3 million a year, $300 million a year. That's $6 million that the tax base is losing just in the city alone. So that shows you that we had to begin to close those gaps. And when you look at the Midtown development, you look at what's happening at the shops of Legacy Park, we are closing those gaps. What it also does, and we didn't have this issue in 2005, but we certainly have it now, is that it helps us reduce the amount of leakage from internet sales. Before Bed Bath & Beyond opened, every time someone bought something online from Bed Bath & Beyond, none of those taxes were remitted to the city. The only way those taxes get remitted is if you have a physical location in your jurisdiction. So for every new store that we're able to capture, it also reduces the amount of internet leakage. The Alabama Department of Revenue estimates that internet leakage now is about 7 to 10%. For the city, that's an annual loss of over $5 million. So it's important for us that we continue to make up that ground that we're losing to internet sales. We also decided that if we're going to upgrade many of our areas that in fact were in economic downturn, we were going to have to make public investments. This has been our theory in West Tuscaloosa. It's been our theory as part of recovery, and it's certainly been our theory for downtown and the riverfront. Since 2005, we have invested over $100 million in our downtown and riverfront. And I feel like I can safely say this today. We wouldn't be having this breakfast at the Tuscaloosa Amphitheater if the city wouldn't have made those investments. You are standing or sitting on a landfill that was once a lake, that 15 acres that was never going to be developed by the private sector. But the city made the decision to invest into an amphitheater, to build a river walk, to upgrade our downtown. And look what's happened. The Hotel Indigo, right down the street, the Embassy Suites. I could go on and on and on about the businesses that have followed behind. Now, when we were making these decisions, it wasn't always easy, and I can assure you there wasn't always a lot of support. I've heard the Riverwalk called a boondoggle. I think I've heard the amphitheater called a boondoggle. I heard downtown revitalization was a dream. And today, it's what we expect. It's the gold standard that we expect out of our city. And today, those decisions look pretty easy. But as we've gone over time, it took a courage of our city council, and it took a lot of faith in what we were doing from the citizens of this community. And it's certainly bearing results. The other key component of what we've been doing is with Mercedes. The fact that Mercedes plant here in Tuscaloosa is one of the most profitable plants in the Mercedes line. During our time, we've seen the second expansion of Mercedes, the addition of the C-Class, and the addition of the GL Coupe. Almost 3,000 additional jobs of Mercedes expansion, and you can almost go equal to that of the supplier supplying the plant. In fact, within the last month alone, we've announced almost 1,000 high-paying jobs in our community between the $1.3 billion expansion of Mercedes and the addition of SMP. There are not many communities in the United States that can voice that kind of record of success. And our partnership with Mercedes, our county-wide partnership with the county and our IDA, has created that type of economic development that continues to sustain our city. The thing we'll have to do in the future is create a workforce that can meet these demands. If we have an issue, it's creating a workforce that's ready to go day one to take advantage of these high-paying technical jobs. I mentioned this earlier, but the quality of life initiatives. You know, a lot of times when people think about municipal government, they think about fire and police and roads, but oftentimes it gets lost is the things that make a community great. What sets you apart? What attracts people to live in your community? What makes people feel great about Tuscaloosa, Alabama? And over the last 10 years, we have tried very hard and very diligently and strategically to meet these high objectives. The Tuscaloosa Amphitheater clearly is one of the great examples. The city used 2% of its lodging tax to fund the construction of this facility. And through its operations, we tried to make it sustainable so it has no impact on our general fund. But this facility has been unbelievable in terms of its attraction to downtown economics and quality of life. In fact, this year, Holidays of the River, the ice skating rink, is going to be here. So it's really exciting for us to continue to figure out ways to utilize this amazing facility. The river market has been an unbelievable success, not only in terms of renting, but the farmers market that's embedded in it. I mentioned Holidays on the River, but even Live on the Plaza last summer, where hundreds of people come out on a Friday night to see a 2-hour act. And then the Tuscaloosa Regional Air Show. Now today, I think we've had 4 air shows, so it seems kind of easy. But back in 2008, when we were recruiting the Blue Angels, we were one of 300 cities that were competing for 36 sites. And no one really believed we could do it at the city of Tuscaloosa except our team. And today, we are one of the best air shows in the United States. And that certainly makes me proud to call Tuscaloosa our home. But as excited as I am about the past 10 years, I want to end talking about the future, because I think the next 10 years can be even better. When I ran for mayor, I talked about building a bridge to the future. But I don't believe we're finished. We're still building that bridge. And this bridge contains a lot of exciting things that are going to continue to transform our community. This April, we'll be opening the Alberta Technology Center. If you look in our community, one of the challenges that we have, especially in our low and moderate income areas of our city, is there's this huge gap between access to broadband technology. And most students today require on that broadband technology to do their homework, to complete assignments. So many kids in our community begin with that disadvantage because they can't go home and create that fake book page to do a homework assignment. We at the city are going to be providing broadband technology through the Alberta Technology Center that's going to give a community access to some of the fastest internet in the Southeast. The Technology Center, Technology Library will not have one book. You can still read Shakespeare, you'll just download it to your iPad or your iPhone. If you don't have an iPad, we will provide one for you. We are determined to close the broadband technology gap, but not only for our children, for adults. How many people today who lose their job now have to go, they've been in a job for 10 or 15 years, they lose that job and now they've got to go apply again. And the job that they were in, there wasn't the technology skills required. But for the new job they need, they're going to need those skills, including just filling out the application online. So everything from job training to closing that gap for our children this technology center is going to fulfill that need. We're continuing our progress with the City Walk. If you read the National Home Builders website, the second reason why people choose a home beyond schools is access to recreation. And when you connect neighborhoods and you provide recreational opportunities, it increases the vibrancy of communities. Along the City Walk, though, it's more than just a great 12-foot shared use path. We're embedding our fiber to increase our broadband technology and upgrading our water, sewer, and stormwater. So for communities, it increases recreation. Simultaneously, it vastly improves our infrastructure in the area. The city is currently working on a resiliency grant. I know some of you are very familiar with this, but I'll give you a little background for those that are not aware. The city, the 2011 tornado, the city has received since that time a little over $64 million in disaster recovery dollars from the federal government. Normally, following a presidentially declared disaster, the federal government provides you funding for your unmet needs. The city's unmet needs was around $125 million. And the unmet needs are in three areas: infrastructure, residential, and business. Tuscaloosa, in fact, is one of the few communities that's never been made whole. And one of the reasons why was in 2011, Congress shut down and the money just wasn't available. The timing of our disaster couldn't have been worse from a congressional standpoint. But the administration, Senator Shelby and our congressional delegation all understood that this was not equitable and helped us work towards a solution. That solution came with Hurricane Sandy. Through that disaster, Congress was in a better position and funded billions of dollars to the Northeast. In fact, they funded so much money, there was $1 billion left over. And so they created the resiliency grant application process. And the resiliency grant, the eligible people who can apply are those who were presidentially declared disasters in 2011, 12, and 13. A total of 67 cities and states, Tuscaloosa being one. We have now made the final round of the resiliency grant application. I have no idea what our award will be. We finalized our application for the final round and we'll be sending it in very soon. The maximum amount's $500 million, and I don't think anyone's going to get $500 million. But I do think we're going to receive a significant award, and our people have earned it. And they've earned it through tragedy and continued struggles coming out of April 27th. I firmly believe that this grant application can be probably the most significant federal appropriation to the city since Lake Tuscaloosa. It'll help us in vastly different ways, from upgrading our infrastructure to broadband technology, to creating housing programs, to creating new business and economic loan programs. It gives us something that, quite frankly, that will help transform Tuscaloosa 10, 20 years to come. The city has recently helped pass legislation called Transforming Tuscaloosa County. In layman's terms, it means this. In the next 10 years, you're going to see the following road projects in our city: McWright's Ferry Road extension, the opening of that trestle at Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King and Jack Warner Parkway, 69 South improvements. Also, you're going to see McFarland Boulevard improvements from Skyland Boulevard all the way back to the Woolsey-Fennell Bridge, which will include additional lanes on the Woolsey-Fennell Bridge. It will likely be 4 to 5 years before you'll actually see dirt moving. These dollars will be mixed with federal dollars, which means there is a whole host of environmental reviews, archaeology reviews, design approvals that will take years. But the Transforming Tuscaloosa County legislation is going to vastly upgrade Tuscaloosa County's infrastructure. And the last thing that I'm excited about is the Tuscaloosa Builds program. Many of you may not know, but about 1.5 years ago, the City Council adopted a program to increase the number of minority and disadvantaged business owners in city contracts. The city felt that this was an area that we needed to grow small businesses. And when you looked at businesses that were getting contracts with the city, too few were minority owned. one of the real issues that we saw was just a dearth of minority-owned businesses. And so the City Council began this program, and it's had amazing results. Every day we continue to grow new businesses that are going to continue to contribute to the economic vitality of Tuscaloosa. In fact, Council recently, upon my recommendation, is now requiring every agency that receives city funding to participate in the Tuscaloosa Builds program. We recently had a cleaning service that came through the Tuscaloosa Builds program, who we helped to get qualified with the federal government and just received her first FAA contract. That's amazing. You take someone who had a simple cleaning business, you help them get through the business licensing, the federal program requirements, and now they're competing not only for city work and state work, federal work as well. This program is now becoming a model for other communities to look at. And with every federal contract, you're required to have this program now. And the City Council was ahead of the game in creating it and establishing it. I know the past 25 minutes hasn't been the most exciting. I know I've been talking to you instead of with you, but I hope you sense what I feel. It's an amazing time in Tuscaloosa. This is an amazing community, and we've done amazing things. And the future is even brighter. I am a very fortunate person because I wake up every day with a job that I love to do. There's not, for all the challenges that you face in this position, and there's certainly many, I don't ever wake up and put my feet on the floor and think, I got to go to work today. I think about the opportunity that I have, and I feel very blessed to continue to serve the people of the city.